All right, good morning. Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply, and in this video we are going to build the DrawString handbag using our newest template. This was in the mystery box that mailed out the beginning of July, and unfortunately I'm way behind on getting this video made. And I severely apologize for that. I've tried to sit down a million times to make this video, and it just hadn't happened. So anyway, I did, if you notice, we doing a little bit of a different camera angle here. I've got it where hopefully I can go from here to my workspace, to my sewing machine, to my scabbard. All right? That's the intention of all this. So, without further ado, let's get this going. The template's very simple. It's only 3 pieces. Out of those 3 pieces, you will cut 5 complete pieces of leather. The mail lady just showed up. I'm going to pause this. All right. Sorry about that. We got a whole minute and 2 seconds in before I had to pause it. Hopefully the rest of it will go better. Anyway, what I was saying is that the template set is 4 pieces, but you will end up cutting, or sorry, the template set is 3 pieces. You'll end up cutting 5 total pieces because 2 of them you need 2 of. So we're going to go down here. In the mystery box, we also sent out some leather. It was a oil tan from SB Foot Tannery. This color right here, and then there was a few mystery boxes got a different color just because I didn't want to use up all of what we had of this particular color. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my my pieces. Again, I need 2 of this piece, 2 of this piece, but only 1 of the bottom piece here. These 2 I've already pulled the backing off. That's why they're a little bit harder to pick up on camera. I've got basically some just scraps of leather here that I'm going to try to cut all these pieces out of. And, yeah. So let me kind of get my best orientation of how these are going to cut out of these pieces. And we'll see. If nothing else, I got more leather in the back. So we'll just start. All right, I'm going to use a rotary cutter. It works really well with this type of leather because this leather is a little bit stretchy. So if I'm using a blade that maybe isn't the sharpest of blades, then it's going to try to pull the leather out from under my pattern when a rotary cutter is just going to continuously roll on it and cut. And they're nice and square, so a rotary cutter's sure easy to use. All right, so there's 1 piece. And here comes another. Sorry, the shop's open, so we're conducting business around here. I've tried for 2 weeks to get this video made, and it just hadn't happened. So just whatever time of the day I have, I'm trying to get it made. Oop. The copy of the template I'm using here was one of the first ones made, so it doesn't have all the writing on it and stuff that the others have. The ones that we actually have out in mystery boxes and that we'll be putting on the website. They'll be on the website today. Because I'd hate to make a video and then tell you can't have the project in it. Kind of like me sending out a mystery box and never getting the damn project finished. So, we now have 2 of the larger side panels cut. I need to cut out 2 of the smaller side panels. And then I need to cut out a bottom piece as well. So, if you got the mystery box piece of leather, you may want to start by cutting out the strings for the drawstring purse out of your long end of your leather before you start putting your patterns on it. I have a longer piece over there that I'm going to cut them out of, and that's why I didn't bother with it. But all of the mystery box pieces had one straight edge on them that would be perfect for cutting out those strings ahead of time. Let's see if I'm going to get one more out of this or not. Not a side piece. I will get a bottom piece out of it. With the bottom piece, I'm going to go ahead and cut a big square out, and then I'll come back and I'll worry about the corners afterward, after we get rid of all the extra stuff. I say square, I reckon it's a rectangle. This is actually a very quick project, and it can be customized to no end. I mean, you can add tooled panels to it and stuff like that, and really dress it up. We're just going to make a plain one, but I'll probably try to do a follow-up video in a couple of days on lining one, because it would be a much nicer project if it were lined. But in this video, I just want to get the basics of making the bag itself out of the way, and I'll kind of describe how I would line it. Alright, there's 3 out of 4 corners done. If you'll see what I'm doing on my corners, instead of trying to go around a curved surface with my rotary cutter here, I'm just making little passes with it at different angles, and it'll end up being kind of rounded. Alright. So now I have my 5 pieces of my main body of my bag cut out. All right, if you'll notice on some of these, there's holes. That's going to be for your drawstring. I'm not going to worry about punching those just yet. I'm going to do that after I skive and fold over the top ledge. All right. So what I need to do now is I need to skive all of my pieces. The mystery box this month was about skiving. It is a very, very important skill, especially if you want to make any bags. And I still need to cut out a piece, so shame on me. I thought I had all my pieces cut. I was wrong. I still need to cut out one of the smaller side panels there, so let me cut that out right quick. But anyway, the mystery box was about skiving, and this bag does require you to skive the edges down. I guess it's not really 100% necessary, but if you've ever made a project that, like a bag that you had to turn right side out, or you sewed it inside out and then turned it right side out, if you can see your stitches where the seams are that you had to turn right side out, dang, near cut myself. If you can see those stitches, then what you should have done on that is skived those edges so that it folds easier. And that's what does that. It took me forever to figure that out. Like when I made some things, it wouldn't be a problem, and then some other things would be a problem. And it's all about that thickness of leather and how easily it folds. So skiving it makes that easier. All right. So now I've got my bottom piece. I've got 1, 2 of the small side panels, 1, 2 of the big side panels, and now I need to skive these. All right. So there's the template set actually says on it, skive 3/8 of an inch off all sides. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to run it through the NP4 skiver over here so that we don't have an hour-long video of me trying to skive all these edges down. But then also, this is a skive and fold line across the tops of the side panels. You'll skive a nice big wide area, fold it in half, and that way the top will have some rigidity and some support to it. So I'm going to move this camera over here and point it towards my skiver. You can see a lot more of my shop today because, again, we're got stuff everywhere. I recently did a video on the NP4 skiver because it's an amazing tool. Like any machine, it is an investment. I'm not going to say it's cheap or easy to afford, but it is an investment that's worthwhile if you want to make a lot of bags and things like that. I'm going to bring this up a little bit because it's weird that all you can see is the bottom of my chin. All right. So I've got to adjust it, make sure it's ready for this leather. I think it already is, but I don't know 100%. So, yep, that'll do. So for the bottom piece, I'm just going to run it through, and I'm going to stab all 4 sides. You can go nice and slow. That way you can turn it when you get to your corners. All right, I let it get a little bit away from me on this corner right here. So I'll put that corner right back through it here. Just take off that little bit. All right, so there it is, all nicely skived. All right. So now I'm going to do 3 sides of each of these 4 panels, and then the 4th side will be a much wider skive for the fold over on top. Now, since this is just straight lines, I'll go much faster on this thing. And then also, this thing has a presser foot. Anytime I've got starting with a skived edge, I lift that presser foot and put the skived edge on top of the blade so that it doesn't try to suck it up under the blade. So there's one of the 4 pieces, three sides of it skived. This one I'm going counterclockwise, or rotating it counterclockwise so I don't have to lift the presser foot, and it makes much faster work. All right, so all those are skived. Now I need to adjust my skiving machine here because I need a nice wide skive across the top of that bad boy where I can fold the top lip of it over. So I'm going to grab a scrap here and make sure that I've got this thing set up right. And all I did is I changed just the depth of the skive, how far into the leather the skiver is going to skive. Got a little tab here needs to be cut off. All right, see that nice wide skive right there? That's going to give me lots of room to fold that over and sew it down and make a nice pretty rolled edge for the top of the handbag. All right, so I've got my 4th side on all these that I haven't skived. So I'm going to, again, lift my presser foot so that side that's already skived goes on top of the blade. And there it goes. Nice big wide skive right there. Just had a class this weekend of the Bitch and Bags class. Had 17, I believe, women in here making bags, and man, did they love this skiving machine. Saved us all a lot of time. All right, we are done with the skiver, I believe, for the entire project. So I'm going to turn it off and kind of push it out of the way here. And I'll turn my camera back where we can see what we're doing on my desk again. All right, so what we need to do is we need to fold down these skived edges here, and I'm going to just use some double-sided tape to stick them down, and then we're going to sew them. All right. So that's what we're going to do. Grab this double-sided tape here, and a pair of scissors. All right, let me get more on camera. Sorry, I didn't realize I was a little bit off. All right, so I'm going to take my double-sided tape, put it right there on the very top edge of this leather. tape without cutting my leather. All right. Okay, pulled the backing off the tape. Now I'm going to fold it over, and I want it to be right up at the edge of that skive so it's nice and even all the way across. All right, so I start and I try to do a bunch of it at once so that I don't have what looks like little ridges where it's unevenly folded. So I try to get as much of it folded at once as I can. This end needs a little bit more of a fold to it, so it's nice and even. All right, and then I'll take my squeaky toy and I will push that down some more. There we go. All right, second piece, same as the first. We're gonna tape the top, roll it down. You can easily use glue if you don't have double-sided tape. I just like the tape because it's so much faster, it doesn't stink, and I don't make as much of a mess because I am like a child when it comes to using my glue. Stick that on there real good. Pull the backing off of it. Hopefully. All right. One thing we need to talk about is the handle or the strap. That's this bag is designed to use a shoulder strap, and it can be quite versatile as far as how that part is done. It doesn't have to be one particular thing. It doesn't have to be one particular way. It doesn't have to be one particular material. One of the things I wanted to do before this video is maybe tool up a big patch that would go on the front of the bag here, and then tool a shoulder strap that would match the patch. Of course, I didn't get that done because, like I said, I barely even have the ability to sit down and make the video itself. I apologize. We've been very busy around here lately, and I'm not complaining even a little bit, but if I'm not doing what I feel is really my job and helping leather crafters create, then I just feel like I'm not doing it right. All right, short sides, doing the exact same thing. Here we go again. To do the handles, if you watch the video series on making the overnight bag where we put the D-rings on, originally that was how I did the handles on this one, but I think we might try something a little bit more risky and fun with this build. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it that way. You just cut out a 2-inch by 2-inch square, put a 1-inch slot punch through it, and that way you get the piece that you need to hang the D-rings from. Hang on just a second. I'll grab a bag that I can show you that. This is what I'm talking about right here. This little square of leather it's got a slot punch and then another piece of leather shoved down in there, and then I riveted that piece in to hold my D-ring there. That's one way to do it, but it's getting boring. I've done it on a bunch of bags lately, so I want to show something different in this video maybe. So we'll get to that in a few moments. So anyway, what I need to do now is I need to sew down the tops of these folds. So we're going to go over here to this Class 18 sewing machine that's been patiently waiting for me to get to it. I'm going to bring the camera to where you can see it. There we go. I will turn the light off because you can't see if my light's on, which is ironic because I can't see if it's off. All right, so I'm going to just set up my little edge guide here about where it's sewing a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch from the top of that fold. And I'm just going to start sewing down these suckers. You can do this by hand sewing if you like. It is a larger project. There is a lot of sewing involved, but there's nothing that says you can't hand sew it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this sucker. This one's set up pretty slow right now because we had that class this weekend. Let's speed it up a little bit so you're not having to watch me sew forever. All right, I'm going to run a little faster now. Not a lot, just a little. All right, now I don't have to backstitch these areas because the stitch that I'm doing is going to be in the seam of the bag when the panels are sewn together. So I'm going to do a little bit of a shortcut, and as that one goes through the machine, I'm just going to shove the next one right under the machine and keep sewing right across. That saves me, 10 seconds on each one from having to, pull them out and clip them and all that craziness. I'll just fold them up back here. All right, next piece, just shove it right there under the presser foot. We'll keep on going. It's like daisy chaining here. And then you can pull on the pieces you already did because they're attached to the piece that you're working on, so that'll help get it through the machine nice and square. All right, one more piece. There we go. So those pieces are now sewn down in the top of the fold there, but I need to sew them again at the bottom of the fold. All right, I'll show you what we're looking at here. So right now, I sewed that line right there, but I need another line right down here. Okay, so I'm going to cut these pieces apart right quick, and then I'll go back and sew that bottom line down. First rule when you're using a sewing machine is always check your bobbin to make sure there's plenty of thread on it. I did not do that when I sat down because I know that I just put a fresh bobbin in it. But ordinarily, that's what you don't want to forget is checking that bobbin first. All right. So now, since I'm using my edge guide anyway, I'll just back it out some. And I'll turn this thing over so that I can see where I need to back it out to, because, that fold there. Getting there. All right. So I've got it out there. It's probably about an inch away from the needle. Basically, I just want to catch the bottom edge of the fold over with its placement. So here we go again. We're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to catch that sew it an inch in instead of right at the edge of the leather. We'll daisy chain them again just to save some time. And it also kind of ensures that we have our stitch lines in the exact same places. Again, this is a Cobra Class 18 compound feed machine. It can handle up to about 3/8 of an inch of leather. It's a great flatbed machine. I normally really like cylinder arm machines, but I've been using a lot of the flatbeds lately because I've been doing a lot of bag making. As you can see from our YouTube channel and our social medias, I don't know why, I've just been on this bag making kick. Probably because Janie and I have a vacation coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. We'll sew that one backwards. All right, last panel. All right, there it is. We sewed all of our top pieces, the fold over sew line. Now we're going to clip these pieces together and turn them into a popcorn box, as I call it, because it'll be a four-sided box. All right, so now I have to cut them apart because, again, they're daisy chained together. And I'll trim off all the excess fabric or threads and stuff. All right, now I'm going to start sewing these pieces together. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not. I am going to punch my holes. I need to punch these holes, and yeah. So you can punch the holes wherever you like. You can punch them. I've got them marked as far as their spacing right and left here. You can punch them way up here in where the folded over area is, but I actually like to punch them a little bit lower than that. And then the drawstrings are easier to pull in and out. I do have my punch here. I actually sat down and thought what tools I needed before this video so that maybe I wouldn't have to constantly pause the video and go get tools. So what I want to do is I'm going to take that marked line that's on the template, and I'm going to put it up there right at my bottom sew line. Okay, and then I'm not going to punch this through the template. I'm just going to mark them. This is a 3/8 inch hole punch, Osborne number 14. And there we go. We got little holes. So we're going to do both our side panels. Again, lining up my dotted line on my template with the bottom stitch line there. We'll put those pieces away and get the other template for the larger panels. Do it again. We'll line up our stitch line with the dotted line. Mark our holes. There's 4 of them on these pieces. Might as well just mark them both at once here. All right, put my template away. All right. Now, if I were going to do the square for the D-ring, I would do that now. I'm not going to do that, but as a matter of fact, I will just go ahead and do what I'm thinking for the handle. I'm still going to use a D-ring. Let me see if I've got one sitting around here. Maybe that's what I forgot today. None of these are the right size. With the kits came inch and a quarter D-rings, just depending on which ones you had. So anyway, let me pause this right quick. I'm going to find the D-rings. I'll be right back. All right, so while we took a little break there, I played with some things, and I think we're going to do a really fancy little doodah on the handle here. And basically, I want to do something kind of like that and attach the handle with. All right, so I've got 2 slotted conchos here. These are from a new line we're about to put on our website. They are called the Rhino Incorporated. They are Italian-made conchos. They are not cheap, don't get me wrong, but they are very, very high quality, nice conchos. Like these particular ones I'm about to use on this, I believe are about $10 a piece. Let me look here. Yeah, $10 a piece. So, but way nicer than any of the little $2 and $3 conchos, and also they're solid brass. These are not zinc coated and stuff. The coating's not going to scratch off and stuff like that. So very nice hardware. All right, so what I did is I took my little key fob die and I cut out a couple of them, and I'm going to put my D-rings in those like so. All right. I'm going to do that for each side of the bag, of course. And again, you don't have to do yours this way by any means. I'm just kind of getting fancy with it because if we're not constantly trying to do something new and improved, then it gets boring. I have here some rosette cutters. All right, saddle makers use these a lot. They're made by C.S. Osborne. But I'm going to cut out some of the little rosettes and use them. So there's a little piece. I've got to get over the leg of my table because it takes quite the swing to knock a hole in one of these things. And I've got a 2-pound maul, so I'll just have to hit it a few times here. There we go. So my plan is that I will take this thing and sew it to the bag. All right, and then I'll take the rosette, put it over that, the concho over that, which there it is already. I'm seeing that I need a bigger rosette because it doesn't, you can't see it behind it. Hopefully I have a rosette cutter the right size. The next one up I have is pretty damn big. It's 2 inches. So let me grab a 4-pound maul here. Sorry if that's shaking the camera. It's shaking the whole dang room. Hopefully this will be the right size. All right, so this will work out. So the rosette's going to be on the piece here. All right, and then the concho on the rosette, like so. And then we'll do some bleed knots to hold it all together. The concho is, or the rosette is the same color as my side panels and stuff, so everything will match really, really nicely. once we get it all put together. So I got to cut out another one of those rosettes right quick. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue. This is, again, I just used a key fob die that I had, a double-sided key fob die. It's got about a 2-inch diameter to it. I'm going to glue that together, and then I'm going to sew it to the side of the bag right here, just below, not too far below the string. Okay, and I'm going to center it on the small panel, not the large panels, but the small ones. Okay, so like here's the large one, way bigger. I need the small one. Okay, so I will sew it to the side panel here. All right, and then I'm going to put my rosette on top of it, and my concho on top of the rosette. I will punch through all of these layers, and I will do a bleed knot through all that. I'm going to do a lot of this off camera. I'm going to go ahead and glue this thing together and sew it to the panel. And when I come back, then we'll be at the point where we need to put the rosette and stuff like that on top of it. So that's where we're at. All right, so I went ahead and sewed the key fobs on here, and I actually trimmed the back of them to where just that, you know, and skived them down so that it's not just really, really thick on the side of the purse there. Okay, and I did that on both panels. And then I've still got my my rosettes here I need to set, so I'm gonna put them on there. I'll put my conchos on my rosettes, and what I need to mark is my little slots for the conchos. Okay, so I'm gonna take a screwdriver and push it through the rosettes and the conchos there. And I'm going to angle it up a little bit on the top and down a little bit on the bottom. And that will tell me where I need to punch my my slots for my my bleed knots that I'm going to do. And then we'll go ahead and do some bleed knots on the video. I'm not really great at doing bleed knots. Sometimes they turn out pretty goofy and I have to redo them, but I can at least show you the basics, and hopefully you can figure out a more what's the term, a more consistent way to do them. Let me grab a slot punch the size of my lace here. All right, so this is a 1/2-inch slot punch. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and do it on this piece first, the rosettes first. Then I'll come over here and do it through these layers over here. Just trying to make sure I'm nice and centered left to right there. Not the best of jobs, but it'll do. That one's better. All right. Now I'll set these on here and mark my my holes through that rosette there, and then I can knock them down. All right, all the way through. Okay. And the same thing over here. I'll mark my holes and go through them, and then we'll do a bleed knot. I was just supposed to mark that and then beat it all the way through, didn't I? All right. All right. So now I take my little laces that I cut. I didn't really measure them as far as how exactly wide they are. They're close to a 1/2 inch, but basically I made them the same width as the slots on the conchos. I'm going to take and cut the ends of them off to a point because then they're easier to pull through each other, and then I'll even those up here later on. But I want to take them and put them through the back side of the bag, or the panel. It's not a bag yet. It's getting there though. I want to make sure they're pretty even here. All right, I'll go ahead and put them through the rosette. And then I'll put them through my concho. I'm not a huge fan of using conchos, but in an instance like this, they can be really nice. So try something new and different and fun. All right, so that's what we're going to look at right there. Okay, and I've got to get this thing nice and tight so it holds all those into place, the concho and the rosette. All right. Now, there's a couple of different ways and a couple of different tools you can use to do your blood knot. I do have a very fancy pair of pliers made by Ron's Tools that it's sharp, that you can punch your hole, reach through the hole, grab the other piece and pull it through. Problem with using that tool is that you most likely don't have one of those. So I'm going to use my scalpel. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the back side to the front on this top piece of leather here, and I'm going to go right at the base of the concho, right where that's coming through the concho there, and I'm going to cut it, push it through the leather, and I want to cut about a ½ inch or so away from the concho, right square in the middle of the leather. Okay? And then what I'm going to do then is take the other piece of leather and I'm going to put it through that hole. It does help sometimes to have a pair of pliers handy that you can, like a needle nose or something, that you can reach in there and grab that with. But I didn't grab one, so we'll just do it manually here. All right, so I'm going to pull that one through. Now I need to get it nice and tight up against the concho, so I'm going to pull on the bottom one until that top one is, the slit is almost inside the concho itself, or parts of it. Okay, and then I also want to fold the material, I want to fold my lace a little bit so that it's not laying to one side or the other, it's not twisted in that knot. Okay, now I got it up there, I got it pretty tight, and pull on the back here and make sure it's nice and tight. All right, good and tight. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing again, once again going through what's now the new top string, and then I'll pull what used to be the top string back through it, and it'll be the top string again. And if that doesn't confuse you, I don't know what to do. Be very careful to try to get your knot as nice and even and straight as you can, and not let it go to the right or the left, and that'll have a huge effect on how pretty your bleed knot ends up being. Okay, and then once again, I'm going to twist it so that it lays nice and even in the middle of that hole there. Okay, just like that. So here's what we've got so far. All right, now my little sample here had 3 or 4 more of them on it. Sorry, back into the camera view. Had a couple more. So I'm going to do 2 more. I'll do 1 more that'll bring the finished side up to the top again. And then I'll do 1 more after that. And then that way the finished side of the leather will be on the outside. And that's what I'm going to do. So once again, take our razor, we'll cut through, cut it about ½ an inch up or so, and pull it through. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while I do this because it's already approaching 45 minutes of video, and I know you guys get tired of hearing my voice. So I'll finish this off camera, and then we'll come back, and I'll do the other one too. All right, got my D-ring hangers on. I'm pretty happy with them. So we can move on to the next step now, which is going to be starting to assemble the bag. All right. Now what I need to do is put these face to face with each other. And then I'm going to use my clips and I'm going to clip them together. And someone moved my clips. I swear it's not my fault this time. Somebody moved them. There we go. All right, bucket of clips. So we got to put them together face to face and sew them together. Now, there's not too much of a secret to this other than you got to make sure that when it is, when you've got, like I'm going to put this piece, one of the smalls and one of the bigs together here, and then I'm going to put one of the smalls and one of the bigs together here. Okay, but I need to make sure that when that's all said and done, that when these two sew together, that the small will link up with the big on both. Okay, like there, I just had it wrong. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me clip this one together right quick. Now with that big bulky handle thing I just put on there, it's not, it doesn't lay as nice and flat as it would have. So I got to be cognizant about that when I'm sewing and pay close attention to it. Okay. All right, so I've clipped these two together. So I'll sew down this line and I'll sew down this line. But when I'm done with that, these two panels will need to sew together. So here I have my small one and my big one. They're going to go together. And then over here, the small and the big will go together. So therefore, I have these clipped on the right side. If I had this small panel clipped to the other side of the big panel here, then when I went to sew these together, it would be big to big and small to small, and that wouldn't work. And I'd spend the next 20 minutes pulling stitches back out. Nobody likes that. So I'm going to take it to the machine. And just like all of the other bag videos that we did, when I sew this together, I'm not trying to get all the way out here on the edge of this skive. I want that sew line to be pretty close to the inside part of the skive here because I want lots of fudge room in case the bottom piece slips over or something like that. I want to make sure they're still sewn together well so that I don't have to come back and do it twice. All right. When I'm doing this, I want to line up, when I'm clipping these together, I want to line up the tops. All right. The bottoms don't matter so much right now, but the tops I do want to make sure are perfectly lined up and that the tops are perfectly even, okay? And that way it'll, those stitch lines that we did, when you follow those around the circumference of the bag, the perimeter of the bag, then they'll all match up nicely. Otherwise, it looks kind of crazy. All right, so we're gonna move the camera a little bit, get it back on the sewing machine. I'll turn my light off so that we can see what I'm doing. And we'll sew. Now on this one, we do need to backstitch first. Okay, at the top, we'll start right here at the top of the bag. I will backstitch 2 or 3 stitches and then go forward to lock my stitch in. I'm not going to use my edge guide on this. I'm just going to keep the presser foot up against the edge of the skive. So again, I'm going to go backwards the first couple of stitches. And then I'll go forward. Going nice and slow. I'll pull that top clip off. Now I'm going to go a little quicker. I know I'm holding it together right. Everything's lined up. I'm keeping my finger pressed on this seam as it goes through because I want to make sure that the top and the bottom, or the top piece and the bottom piece, are going through evenly, and one of them's not sliding around or being pulled through more than the other. All right, so here I am at the bottom, and I'll go ahead and do my back stitches. And there we go. I will bring this up to the camera so that you can see where I just stitched all this. And then I'll come back and I'll do the other 2 pieces together. And then we'll clip the 4 pieces together. So again, I didn't try to get it way out here on the side. I went ahead and sewed it in there pretty close to the edge of the skive. And so when I go to fold this right side out, it'll have a nice seam to it, and you won't see white thread in the seam. Okay? So, let's do the other 2. If I was being super duper careful with this project, I would probably change over to a darker thread when I'm doing these inside seams, like a dark brown or even a black, and then it would be even harder to see the seam inside there, the leather or the thread inside the seam once it's turned right side out. But I know that this machine's got a nice tight pull to it and everything, so I'm not as concerned with it right now. Alright, got to the end, did a couple of back stitches, and now, my scissors up here, of course. I could have 20 pair of scissors, and by the end of a project, they'll all be sitting on the table and not at the sewing machine. Because I roll like that. Alright. So now, I got to clip the others together. Okay? So, real simple. I'm going to clip these 2 together. Okay, again, I'm doing a long piece to a short piece. All right? I'll get these clips over here on the machine because I don't want to keep dragging clips over there. Or just like my scissors, I'll have 40 of them in one place and none of them at the other. Again, I'm lining up the tops, not even worried about where the bottoms line up. When we fold that over, you'll hardly ever get them to really perfectly evenly match up as far as the entire piece, but you can make that top line up, and that's all that matters. Okay. So we clip that side together. Now we're going to clip this side together, and then we're going to get to stitching. Overall, this is a very quick build. It's not very time consuming at all. It makes a nice bag. We can, again, it can be lined, and then it's much more high end. But we're not lining this one. I will build another one once I've got a nice tooled piece and a tooled shoulder strap and stuff. I'll line that one, and I'll do a video on just the lining portion. Same with the overnight bag. I've got one of those put together, some pieces ready to start putting together. I want to do a video on just lining that bag. One stitch too many. There we go. All right, so I'm going to sew these 2 sides together, then I'll sew the other 2 sides together. Put my hand down on the seam like I was talking about a while ago. Get the stitching. Make mama proud sitting in my sewing machine. Okay, there's that end. Grab my scissors again. Flip it over and we'll do it again. One more again is what I like to say. panels are sewn together now. I'm going to trim off all my, my strings from them, and we're going to clip the bottom to it. Again, everything we're doing is inside out. This bag, like the other one that we did videos on, is made entirely inside out and then sewn right side out. And if we sewed this one right side out, it would look like a lunch sack. It would have 4 very sharp corners to it, and we don't want it to. We want it to have more of a rounded appearance. All right, let's go down there. All right, now, I always forget this. I mean, every single time I've built this particular bag, I've forgotten to do this. I have to mark my centers, okay? I have to mark the center of this panel, and the other 2 panels. All right, the reason I do that is because, like I said in the last bag making video, all bags are built from the center out. All right, when we put all the pieces together, we want to start with the centers so that we know that it's not going to be all whomper-jawed and crooked, okay? So I apologize. I wish I'd have remembered ahead of time because it's a lot easier to measure this when it's flat. But we're going to mark our centers. And I'm just marking them right at the bottom of the panel, just on the inside of it. We do make these nice centering rulers, which can make this job a little bit easier. Everybody that's tried one really likes them, but it does make it a lot easier. You don't have to do any math. You just put it down and you put your measurements, you know, you just move your measurement back and forth till you're at the same on both sides of the 0, and then mark where the 0 is, and it really does make centering objects a lot easier. All right, now that I did that, I need to find the centers of my bottom piece. Again, this ensures that everything is lined up once the bag is built. And that the base of it matches the sides. All right, so I am going to clip this thing together, starting with my centers. I'll just go ahead and put the bag body upside down here. Okay, I'm going to take 4 clips initially, and I'm going to take all the sides and line up the centers with the bottom and clip that part together. Okay, so here's my center mark on the side. Oh, I am off camera. I apologize. Here's my center mark on the bottom, and then here, or on the side, and then here it is on the bottom. They perfectly line up. So I'm going to put a clip there. Then I'm going to go across, and I'll do the exact same thing on the opposite side. All right. Put a clip there. Then I'll come over here to the side, and I'll do the same thing. Put a little clip there. And then over here on this end, I'll do the exact same thing. And I'll put a little clip there. All right, so now it's just a matter of putting all my clips all the way around it so that it holds nice and steady for me while I'm sewing. When you get to the corners, it can be a little bit of a bear, but it's very doable. I'll show you how I assemble this one on the sewing machine in just a minute, and hopefully it'll help and not hinder how you do it. Sometimes I worry that maybe my method, someone else knows a better method, but they're looking at my video and like, oh, well, if he does it this way, then I should too. And I've always been a big proponent of, if you've got a method that works for you, don't change it for me. If it works, it works. It's like those post office boxes. If they ship, if they fit, they ship. Sorry, these clips are not bent the right way, and so I've got to sit here and bend them out to get the little handles where I can grab them. We got a bunch of brand new clips for the bag class that we had this weekend, and so we're almost there. We've got both sides of it clipped up here. What I'll explain in my video that I'll do on the what's it called, on the lining, I would build a separate, completely separate liner for this bag and drop it in before I sewed this other seam right here. I'd drop it in and put it under that seam and then sew around it. And that would hold the lining in, and it would be like a fabric sack inside of a leather sack, basically. And that's how I would deal with this one. It's different than what I would do if I was lining the overnight bag or the backpack. Actually, it's pretty similar to what I would do with the backpack, but we hadn't gotten to that video yet. All right. Now, this is going to be a little bit difficult because we have sharp corners here where the material, you know, is sewn together versus these rounded corners of the bottom of the bag. As I sew them on the sewing machine, I'm going to stand the bag up just like this, okay? And as I go around those, I'm just going to press those corners down and let the sewing machine just walk right across them, okay? Now, I can do a little bit of tack or clipping and give it a little cut right there so that it'll, you know, so that the machine will have somewhere to walk, but it's not really necessary. And so I'm just going to go around it. Unfortunately, with the angle that the camera's at, let's see if I can move my machine. I can't move the camera, but I can move the machine. Try to get it where you can actually see. Otherwise, all you'll see is the side of the bag. There we go. I think that'll work. All right. Get the bottom sewn on this bad boy. We're almost done. All right, so what I'll do is I'll start in the middle of a long portion of the bag, just because it's easier in the middles than it is on the corners. So if I start in the middle, then at least I'll have a good, nice stitch line to start out with. I do not need to back stitch because I'm going to go completely around the bag, and when I come back to the beginning stitches, I'll go back over them. Okay, so I'm going to push this sucker up under the presser foot here. And again, I'm not trying to sew out along the very, very edge of the leather. I'm trying to sew in there right at the edge of the skive, and that'll make sure that even if they aren't aligned 100%, that they still will line up some for me. I'm gonna turn the machine here. Hopefully that'll help you see. I wonder if. No. All right. One day, I'll start using my new camera, and I'll have Janie Sue here to hold it and move it and get it where I need it so that people can really see what I need them to see. One day. All right, so I'm going to take it nice and slow and, you know, steady as she goes type thing going around all this. And I'm going down this side, and as I get to a clip, right before the presser foot touches that clip, I'm going to pull it off. We had a young lady in our class this weekend. I think she was like 18 or something. Her and her mother came. And it was pretty awesome to watch her sew because she had figured out how she could just hit that clip and it would just shoot off the bag right as she got to it. She was really rocking and rolling with her project. So All right, so I am to a corner, and again, I'm just going to work my way around the corner and let the presser foot walk right up over the side of the bag, or the seam from the side. You may have to lock my machine down. I can't push against it if the wheels are unlocked. All right. You may have to kind of push it down a little bit, and I'll hand wheel it as I push it through so it doesn't just get stuck on that seam there. All right. All right, here we go. Almost to the second side. This is the one instance on one of these bags that I really think hand sewing would probably be easier when you're doing the bottom part here. I'm sorry that, again, you can't see what I can see. But one day, I'll have my stuff together for these videos. I love the encouragement I get and the people that tell me how much their videos help, but I wish they helped even more. All right, sewing along, we got to another clip. We're currently on a short side of the bag right this second, because we started on the long side. Another clip. And here we are to another corner. Same thing, I'm going to fold it over and walk around it. There we go. Almost around the second corner. Back to a straightaway, which is always nice. Nothing like a corner to make you appreciate straight sewing. Last clip for this side. Back to a corner again. I know you're tired of watching this already. Feel free to skip forward about 2 minutes if you're tired of watching me sew. I think that'll be about how much time it takes me to finish this. And the next thing will be turning it right side out, which is always my favorite part, as long as it was successful. Don't get me wrong, I've turned some right side out and been very, very disappointed. Just like we did with the overnight bag, you could glue this together. I didn't glue this particular one because this is kind of a lightly oil tanned leather, and it just doesn't hold glue very well. So otherwise I could use contact cement on the very edges and get these edges to really line up well for the sewing and not have to rely on the clips quite so much. All right, coming back to our original starting point. I'm very excited. And here we go. Back on that first straight side that we started on. Get back to our original stitches, and we'll go right back through the first couple of holes again. And we will call this sucker sewn. All right. Let me move my machine back because I am done with it. The only other thing we have to do with this is to make a handle. And I'll show you how I make a handle out of the same material. And I guess we will be sewing that too. Like I said, the next one of these I make that I'll actually do the video on lining and stuff, it will have a tooled handle and a tooled patch that match. and that rhymes. And I'm an idiot. All right, so here we have our lunchbox. All right, looks a lot like a lunch bag, but we need to turn it right side out. All right. Again, this is the moment of truth. This is where we find out. I always inspect it first, make sure that there's nowhere that I'm going to be able to see light from the inside of the bag, nowhere I can stick my finger from the inside to the outside. All right, and I'll start by just pushing a corner through and rotating it out. I want to be really careful. I don't want to pull hard on one of these seams. All right, it's not that they're not durable, it's just that they're not really made to be pulled on like that. So I got to be kind of careful as I turn the bag right side out, not to go too crazy on one of the seams. All right. Never go full Hulk. All right, and then once I have the entire lip of it turned right side out, then I can pull on it a little bit more, and I'll just work my way down the bag as I rotate it. Okay. Got it a little bit bunched up here, just pull it apart and then keep pushing on that seam and it'll come right out. All right, so looks pretty good so far. I'll take my hand and I'll just run it along the seams on the inside, and I'll kind of pinch them down on the outside here so that they all have a nice square appearance to them. Okay, and then once we put our string through the bag to make it the drawstring bag, then it will also help form it and help it hold its shape. So there we go. I've pinched all four corners now, and then I need to pinch along the bottom as well, and get it all nice and shaped so it doesn't want to just constantly turn itself inside out when it's sitting still. All right, this is going to be a pretty nice one. I'm excited about it so far. I'm going to pause the video here and take a break, and I think they need me over there. And yeah, when I come back, we'll make the drawstring and we'll talk about the handle. All right, so the bag's turned right side out. We need to talk about the string for the bag, and then also we need to talk about the if we wanted to make a shoulder strap that was the same color as the bag. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my big long straight edge over here. All right, and I'm going to cut me a nice straight line down the bag, or down this this piece of leather I have. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm going to do essentially is I'm going to cut a long string, and I'm going to make it pretty wide, and then I'm going to fold it in half and sew down it. Okay? And that'll be what I use to make the string that goes through the loops of the bag, or the holes in the bag. Okay? So I want the string to be about yay big, about a 1/2 inch wide or so. So I need to cut my piece about 1 1/4 inches wide. Okay, this is about 5 to 6 ounce leather. So to get a 1/2 inch wide string, I'll need more than 1 inch because there will be a lot of it in the fold, in the round of the fold there. Okay, so I have some quilting thingies, measuring thingies. I don't know what to call them. But anyway, I've got a couple of different ones that I use for things like this. All right, and it's got all kinds of markings on it and stuff like that. So I'm going to put this sucker, get rid of this ruler, pick my leather back up. Anytime I'm building a project, my workspace gets smaller and smaller as I don't put things away. Happens all the time. I'm used to it. All right. So I'll put this up here, and I'll do my 1¼ inch line here, and I'll cut down it with my rotary cutter, and then I'll move it down some more and cut some more. Okay. I'm going to go real easy pushing against it because I don't want to accidentally move the leather. Sorry, my head's in the way. Nobody should ever have to have that much of a close-up of me. And then I'll just move my measuring thingy down. I don't know exactly how long of a piece it'll take to get all the way through the bag, but I will know by the end of the video here. So this one's going to end up being about 30 inches or so, I guess. That should be plenty. Set that aside for a minute. All right, so I need to fold this in half and sew it down, and then when I'm done with that, I got to make sure first that it's going to fit through here. And I either need to make my holes bigger or this thing a little smaller. If you don't have a splitter, then your option is going to be making your holes bigger. But I have the option of splitting the thickness of this down just a little bit. And that'll help me to fold it over and make sure that it'll fit through the holes in my bag. So give me just a second. I'm going to do that right quick. All right. So what I ended up doing is I skived this strap down, split it down, and then I ended up splitting it too much. I split it down to about 3 ounce. And so what I did is I rolled it into thirds, okay? So let's say this was that. I took it and folded it once and then folded it twice, and then I just sewed right down it. All right? You can do this a million different ways. You can use paracord if you want. You just need something that'll go through these holes. You can braid you a nice drawstring. It doesn't matter how you do it. That's one of the most versatile parts of the bag. You can do it any way you want. So I am going to run the drawstring I made through the loops. All right, and if you tooled anything or did a patch or anything like that, and you've got it on the front, then you need to do the front last. You're gonna thread this thing from the back to the front. Okay, and what you'll do is on the widest panel in the back, you put it through the center 2 holes. Okay, and then I'll just pull it nice and even. I am going to turn it over. Like I said, it's folded in thirds, so I do have a seam right there, and I'm just going to turn it over so that seam is facing down and not up in the bag. Okay, small detail, but it's a detail nonetheless, so it should be paid attention to. All right, so pulling it all the way tight, and then I'm making sure that my ends are nice and even. Okay, now I'll start with this side. The very next hole to it, I'll go back out. All right, and we're just going to thread it in and out these holes until we get to the front of the bag. Not difficult at all. Except for the first one that I made that I had an uneven number of holes. And at the end, they were both facing in and not out. All right, so I went around the next panel, in and out. Now I'm into the front panel. I'm going to go in this one at the edge and out the one at the center, or toward the center. There we go. Now, I'm going to go over here to the other end of the bag and run the other one the opposite direction, but the same way. This fits really nicely in these holes, so I know it's going to be a good one. Once we pull it nice and tight and everything, it won't. You can make like a keeper that'll hold both of them in the front, but honestly, I kind of designed the pattern of the holes where it wouldn't really need one. You wouldn't have to have a keeper on it. But again, you can have one if you want, and it would even be a nice, you could tool it or make it of a contrasting leather or something like that. So there it is. All right. So when you pull those, it'll close the bag. Okay, and the first few times you do it, it's going to be kind of hard to pull and all that. You're going to have to work it in there and everything, but that's just what new leather does. Makes it difficult. So there she be. We're going to go ahead and call this video done. Like I said, I'm going to do another one later where I'll line this bag and show you how to do that. I'm going to tie knots in the ends of this cord that we created, just so that it has basically a defining or finishing point on it. Yeah. Other than that, I'm going to make me a shoulder strap out of veg tan. It can be any length. It can be any whatever you need. If I were to make the shoulder strap out of the same leather as the rest of the bag, then hang on and I'll show you what I would do. A second to tie this sucker up. I don't know why this one doesn't want to tie right. Okay, just little half knots. All right, so if I were to make a shoulder strap, let me get my straight edge piece that I have here. What I would do is cut it about, say, 3 inches wide. Okay, so we'll just cut this little section here about 3 inches wide. All right, we've got a couple of choices here, but what I like to do is I would skive down the outside 2/3 and leave the center of it thicker, and then roll both the outside edges to the center. All right, and then I would sew down the middle of it, 2 sew lines. Okay, so it looks like 2 racing stripes almost going down the center of it. Let me set up my skiver right quick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I'll just make a sample one right quick. All right, perfect. Be right with you. Okay, so skive down the outside 2/3 or so, and I would just roll those edges to the center until they touch. I don't need them to overlap. I just want them to touch. Okay, I would tape them down. And then I would just sew them both directions. Sorry, I'm in a rush because I'm trying to get this video finished and posted. This was my goal for the day, and it has taken me all day in between phone calls and everything else. All right. Peel the back off this tape. And just like we did with the tops of the panels, we'll just roll it over. Okay, and the same the other way. And then I want those ends to touch. I want the rollovers to touch so that it looks like a solid piece of leather. All right, there we go. I'll take my squeaky toy, get that all nice and tight. Go back to my sewing machine real quick. Now I want to sew these lines pretty close to the center because otherwise you could peel away that leather that's in the middle there. So I'll back these, back my edge guide up. And I'm just going to go real fast, not backstitch or anything. Alright, so I sewed up one side. I'll spin it around here and I'll sew it up the other side. And that sew line really wasn't as far in as I needed it to be. Should have done it even further. Okay. Show you what I did here, and then we will call that done. Sewed it up just like that. There's what you can see on the back side. You can barely see the seam in between the two. And other than that, it's a pretty nice little handle. Again, this is just a small sample. For this bag, I am going to do a veg tan shoulder strap. So that's why I just did this one as an example to show the other type of shoulder strap if you were going to use the same kind of leather. So thanks so much for watching the DrawString handbag video. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the comments. I do try to answer them all. And thanks for watching. I'm Aaron Heiser of Maker's Leather Supply.